And thanks everyone for joining tonight's Modcast with a slightly different cast than what we've seen here before. This is Shim filling in for Blonde Hog as the uh, main host here tonight. We also have Dory and Strasberg.
You can just call
To
me Brent. It's weird if you call me that.
fair, Brent it is. So tonight we're talking about the March 12th episode of Dynamite, which was a pretty solid episode, if I don't say so myself. I think overall, we had this is the episode following the fallout from Revolution. So we had a bunch of segments, I think, throughout the night that kind of following up on a lot of the stories that uh, happened over the course of Revolution. Anything you'd like to call out and talk about, kind of on a high level, before we get into each of the segments individually? Dory.
Yeah, I think my favorite follow up from my favorite follow up from the pay per view was probably the Kenny stuff. I'm just so damn happy that he is like able to wrestle at this level. I love that Kenny trying is better than I don't know. Let's just put a random number out there: 80% of wrestlers who are doing. And it's just really awesome seeing him have some singles gold after that banger match him and Takeshita put on. It's in my match of the year contenders. Yeah, I think that's the one that really made me super happy and excited. There was some other follow up from the pay per view that I really liked, the Tony Storm stuff and the Will Ospreay stuff as well, plus the stuff with Hangman and MJF. This was just all sensational. It would be hard to pick one, but I did love Tony's zoo metaphor. I did think that was very inspired. And yeah, Brent, anything strike you?
You kind of covered it all there, but yeah, the Kenny promo was great, short, sweet, established the importance of the title, and did everything you needed it to do there. And it was fun to see him sign autographs for the kids in the crowd and stuff like that. It's nice it's when you have that nice fan interaction. And then yeah, Tony Storm was probably my personal highlight. He gave a hell of a promo, lots of comparisons to things that shouldn't be really talked about on in a public setting, and but she does it so eloquently that it works. And then obviously the setup for her next feud there. There's some good potential there. So yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to the build to Dynasty.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. I think a lot of the follow up was really good in terms of like the direct, resolution to some of the matches that happened, as well as the tidbits of what we should expect in the near future that is a little bit changing in the story. And I think the first big thing in terms of a next step uh, is we're looking forward to Dynasty at this point in terms of pay per view, and they set up this international tournament, which is a 4 eliminator match tournament leading to a four-way match against that. Then that winner gets to face Kenny Omega at Dynasty, and we had 2 of those matches tonight. We get 2 more on Saturday, and so let's talk about those 2 matches first. Here, let's start with the main event, just working our way backwards, so we can bury the lead a little bit with our mystery opponent. um, so the main event of tonight was, of course, Orange Cassidy versus Hechicero, which was just a technical masterpiece, if I don't say so myself. It was fairly short, a nice solid 10-minute ish match from the start. But these two just know how to work with each other and can really roll on the mat really well. Know how to play with each other's strengths. Brent, any comments about this match in particular?
Uh, yeah, no, like you said, it was a very fun match. It was fun to see the counterbalance of techniques between the competitors, and that was kind of the theme kind of throughout the evening. There's a lot of different contrasting styles that worked well together, but to see the technical wizardry of a Hechicero versus the whatever you want to call it that Orange Cassidy does, to see like just how Orange is able to take what he does, take what he does best, take what his opponent does best, and just meld all of that together into a solid, 10 or so minute match was great, and it made for a really good main event.
Yeah, Dory, any additional comments about this
Yeah,
match?
I thought this was a great match. I'm sure there are some people watching who are very confused about why it started basically at 10 p.m. Maybe a couple minutes earlier. Those people need to respect DVRs. It was a really fun
Ouch.
match. I had a really solid time with it overall. I think it could have gone longer. I would have honestly liked Hechicero to win, but I think a lot of us knew he probably wasn't. Plus, I mean, he basically got rolled up, like, he didn't like take a clean pin or anything like that. Orange got him with the same kind of rat trap pin that he and Yuta have been using for, I don't know, years now. So it's a tried and true method. I just thought it was great. All of Hajicero's counters to Orange looked great. He took a nasty bump at one point and luckily didn't land on his head or neck like we thought maybe he did. Seemed to be okay after that. But just looked good. I mean, just a lot of the DDTs, especially the counters into the counters. One of my favorite parts was when, at the start of the match, Hechicero is trying to prevent Orange from putting his hands in his pockets because obviously that gives him his powers. Eventually Orange is of course able to do it. And Hechicero, I love this little detail, stomps on the mat. He's like pissed off. He's like, "Damn it! Like I let him get away with it." It's such a stupid thing, but only in pro wrestling could you do that spot and just like have it go over as well as it did with the fans. So, shout out to that spot. That was great. It was a solid match. I would have had Hechicero win, like I said, but I have no issue with Orange winning either. And I'm sure down the line, CMLL will get a win back.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Maybe.
I think Hechicero is one of my favorites coming out of CMLL. I think he's been over really strongly with the AEW audience, across the board since the first time he's come in and had any kind of match. So I'm always happy to see him. I think he could have won here as well, but
Yes.
OC is not someone that often loses unless it is something special. So then jumping over to the other international tournament match was, of course, our Beast Mortos versus the wild card opponent, who, of course, was the debuting Speedball Mike Bailey. And again, I think it was a quintessential debut match for Speedball in front of the audience. It seemed like the audience knew who he was. We had several chants of his name over the course of the match, trying to get him to boost up and fight against Beast Mortos. Again, he's a striker in terms of a wrestling style, and I think it was another, like you called out earlier, that this is a clash of styles that worked really well. Dory, any comments about this match?
I think I was like 2 inches away from my TV before this match because I didn't want him to come out, and sometimes people are like ahead of you. Excuse me, are ahead of you when you're watching, and so I didn't want to get it spoiled for me in case it wasn't Mike or in case it was Josh or it was somebody totally different. But I was very close to my TV because I was so excited. Immediately screamed and yelled. I love Mike Bailey so much. He is an awesome pro wrestler, also non-binary, like I am. So I'm just really excited for that extra rep in AEW. So that's always good. He This match, this is my match of the night. I think a pretty clear match of the night for me. Not to say the other ones were bad, just that they weren't as good as this. I really enjoyed it. Speedball is such a phenomenal talent in the ring. He's so fast, but his strikes look really good. Of course, they look really good, right? Because he's got a martial arts background. He really actually knows how to use it. Some people think they have a martial arts background and that means they can wrestle, but Speedball really combines the best of two worlds and really knows how to do it. He makes it look good. It doesn't hurt that his opponent was Beast Mortos. Now they've already wrestled each other in a different promotion when Beast Mortos was Black Taurus. I believe they've also fought each other on singles in CMLL, but I'm more familiar with their tag matches with each other, against each other. And I think maybe they fought in an X Division match as well. I'm not sure. But regardless, they have chemistry. They have had matches before. And they just tore the roof down. I mean, the crowd was off their feet pretty quickly. It was well paced. I really never had any doubt, poor Beast, that Mike was losing. But I'm very happy he won. I really, really, really want to see Speedball versus Kenny at Dynasty. Not for any particular personal selfish reason, just because I think it would be cool. But yeah, no, in all seriousness, this was a really great match. And I'm so excited for Speedball and AEW. Yeah, he's such a phenomenal talent. I know I've already said that, but this was a great pairing. I think my spot of the night in the spot of the match was him doing his kind of triangle. I think he calls it a triangle moonsault or something. But he like jumps up to the apron and then goes out of the ring and does like a moonsault or whatever right onto his opponent. It looks beautiful every time he does it, and he still does it flawlessly.
Yeah, no, I think these two clash really well. I think my spot of the match was actually the finish. I think his spin kick looked devastating. I was like, oh, did that land a little too hard? Because that was a very stiff looking kick. If I don't say so. It definitely looked that way. Hopefully, it wasn't as stiff as
it
it
builds
looked.
more anticipation for the Ultimate Weapon too. Because
Exactly.
I was surprised. I thought he would bust that out, but he didn't. He went with the. I actually don't know what it's called, but he went with that like spinning kick that looked devastating.
Yeah, Brent. Anything else you want to call out from that great match?
No, I mean, I think you guys pretty much nailed it there. I really agree that I like his new finishing move there. Uh, that was kind of a cool approach. That like, yeah, he's still got the flamingo driver in his bag. He's still got a lot of different tools in his bag, but at the same time, that was a new finishing move that looked super devastating and that he can do to a Beast Mortos, or he could do to basically anybody on the roster as long as it's not like Satnam Singh or something like that. So
Right.
yeah, I really like that move. So eloquent when he's kicking people, and it always looks devastating, even though like it's not hurting him, but like man, every time he kicks somebody, especially like in the head or whatever, it looks like damn, how is that not hurting him? But yeah, I'm very excited for Speedball, like you guys are, and yeah, Speedball versus Kenny would be sick at the pay-per-view. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but yeah, that'd be dope.
Yes, I mean, on the topic of the tournament, so we have two members going into that four-way right now of Orange Cassidy and Speedball. On Saturday, we have matches between, I believe it's Mark Briscoe versus Mark Davis and Ricochet versus Shibata. I don't know who's going to come out of that. My assumption would be probably Ricochet and whatever mark they want to choose to take the pin in the four-way is at least a joke in my mind, because I don't see either of them winning the four-way. I could see Ricochet winning the whole thing for the match against Kenny. I could see Speedball. I don't think I really see Orange Cassidy in that spot. At least that's my opinion. So it's like, for me, it's probably 50-50, although maybe leaning 60-40 in the way of Ricochet coming out of this tournament. Any thoughts about how you would book or what you think that outcome is going to be?
Yeah. I mean, again, excuse me. I would have Speedball win the whole thing. I think you could have Mark Briscoe beat Mark Davis. I mean, it's kind of questionable. Mark Davis in the middle of a storyline. It probably makes him look worse if he doesn't win, maybe, because Mark Briscoe is always going to be beloved, while Mark Davis has kind of a tenuous heel run going on. It's kind of wishy-washy, honestly. So I'd honestly have Mark Davis cheat to beat Mark Briscoe and have Davis take the pin from Speedball, and maybe that sets up. Oh, you know what? That'd be great, because I don't wasn't Don Callis, weren't they interested in Bailey, or am I thinking about something else? Maybe I'm thinking about something else. But I could have sworn Don Callis was interested in Mike Bailey at one point. Maybe that was someone else who was scouting. But anyway, yeah, I do think that would be good though. That would set up a program with the Don Callis family. Of course, Bailey's already fought Takeshita before, and he could have great matches with Brian Cage, and so on and so forth. So I mean, he could have great matches with that whole roster. But it would be a good way to introduce him. It would make him the clear face. And I just think that it would be great in terms of just a solid wrestling build. If you don't have Bailey win, I would have Ricochet win for sure. Ricochet versus Kenny would be very fun. I'm so desperate for a Kenny versus Orange singles match, but at the same time, we have seen them in that three-way with Pac, which is an amazing match, by the way. So it's not as vital, but yeah. Anyway.
Brent, any thoughts about where you would who you would pick as? I guess you said you would pick Speedball potentially, but where
I
do you
mean
see
that
the probability?
that would be the money. Yeah, that would be the money match, I think. But I don't know if that's necessarily what you get. If I had to put money down, I would probably think I'd go with Ricochet winning that match. They heel face dynamic is not that AEW is as reliant on as some other companies are, but I think that just kind of makes the most sense, and it kind of keeps Ricochet in a good spot, gets him in a big match. I think that match would honestly be pretty amazing as well,
Mhm.
because Ricochet's just on a hell of a run.
Yeah.
Doesn't really get, he's not considered like a top guy. That's one of those people, but every match that he does is just phenomenal. So him versus Kenny would be awesome. I mean, it's something you definitely can't complain about. And yeah, I think that's probably going to be the most likely outcome. And I do kind of like how of going with Mark Davis over Mark Briscoe, because I think everybody's kind of like, oh yeah, Mark Briscoe's obviously going to win that, but Davis puts another heel into that four-way match and puts a pin eater in there, and then yeah, I mean maybe they will develop. I mean, it's kind of almost a cliche to come back or to come into the company and have a feud with the Dodd and Gallows family at this point, but maybe Speedball running into those guys would make a little bit of sense, and maybe setting up a Speedball versus Takeshita match at the pay-per-view or something instead
Yes.
would be sweet. And because they do like to go back to that well, kind of like when Ricochet came into the company, they're like, "Oh yeah, we have this Ricochet versus Osprey match that we could do,"
Right.
and they kind of did. They did that a lot earlier than I thought they were going to.
Mhm.
Same.
I think maybe
Yeah.
that's kind of the same thing where they know, like, hey, we got Speedball and Takeshita. These two have had amazing matches in the past. Maybe we're going to go to that right away
Yep.
instead. So
I think that would be a smart move. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. That Maple Leaf Pro match that they had is phenomenal.
yeah, right,
And
exactly.
I think they wrestled on the not on the Indies on the I think when Takeshita and Bailey were both much younger. I think they wrestled in a Japanese promotion if I remember correctly.
They did, and they wrestled in PWG as well.
Oh wow. Okay. So yes. So they've wrestled three times already. Give me a fourth time on a pay per view in AEW. I think that would be another sensational match between them. I can't lie. I think Takeshita isn't long for not that he's leaving, but like leaving. But I think he is going to start defending that Neverweight Championship a bit
Mhm.
more, and so I don't think he's going to be on AEW as consistently. You could have Bailey pick up a big win and have Takeshita put over Bailey a little bit. I don't think it would hurt Takeshita at all. He's beaten Kenny Omega twice. I don't. I know that was a while ago, but yeah, I don't really. It just squashed Max Caster. I mean, it's clear TK doesn't really think much less of him.
Right.
So not to spoil some Max Caster Open Challenge results, but anyway, yeah, I just think there's so many exciting possibilities. There's pretty much no bad outcome for the pay per view. I mean, you either get Orange, you get Ricochet, or you get Speedball, which is the one I want. But I'd be happy with Orange or with Ricochet. I don't really think it's going to be either of the marks. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think we've seen some elements along with like because the Don Callis family has been honestly so prevalent across a bunch of feuds in AEW, like you mentioned, the kind of the quintessential heel group
right.
for facing a bunch of people right now on AEW TV. I feel like we've seen elements of a breakdown across the Don Callis family, especially around like the murder machines and stuff where, they're not winning, like, other than Takeshita, no one's winning much anymore.
Right. I mean,
Kyle,
Fletcher, yeah, Kyle just lost, but although he
yeah,
had beaten Osprey once, twice, I don't
yeah.
remember, once I think, but yeah.
Yeah, Kyle was successful, but he just had that big cage match loss at Revolution.
Right.
So it seems like the Don Callis family is on a downturn. Not to say they can't turn that around, but it seems like maybe there's some friction going on, and obviously there's been friction since Mark Davis has returned within that group as well. So it seems like they're setting up for something. What that something is, maybe we don't have an expectation right now. Maybe they don't know right now. It's always it's the beauty. That's the beauty of professional wrestling is
Right.
they get to write the next episode after reactions come out, and they can choose to change things however they feel.
It's just like I'm gonna get even nerdier here, but it's kind of like D&D. Like after the session is done, like you can ask your players like what do they like, what do they didn't, what do they not like, and you can respond to that. And it's a really cool. That's what makes pro wrestling and D&D kind of cool, and that RPGs and kind of cool because you can improv.
Yep, I totally agree. And I guess talking about the results of this tournament, at the top of the episode, we did get that Kenny Omega promo where he kind of came out with all of his glory, came out to battle cry. Someone at the side of the crowd tried to give him a bouquet of flowers and a hat full of stuff, it appeared. And he gave a solid promo about being back, feeling strong, wanting to face the best, propping up the title that he won, as well as giving props to Takeshita, which again plays into maybe a counterbalance of a fallout of the Don Callis family, in my opinion. You don't talk good about heels, typically speaking, unless there's maybe the potential for them to turn face, which I think Takeshita has a huge potential as a face within AEW. Yeah, any comments about the Kenny promo at the top of the hour, Brent?
I mean, I don't really have much else to add. Like I kind of said at the top of the show, it's pretty short. It was pretty sweet. It established like, hey, I have a singles title now. I'm basically making this like this is going to be the most important title, and I think that's great. I think it's always good when like not that Takeshita didn't honor that championship or anything like that, but at the same time having Kenny Omega as the guy with that belt obviously raises that belt to a new height, and I think that's a good thing. And it was interesting to see at the end there too with when Kenny coming out, and obviously Shibata's in the tournament and whatever, but maybe there's some underlying tension there. Is there going to be something with some of the ops versus Kenny for the belt that could fill in the gaps in between there? Who knows? But it was a fun start to the show, and Kenny's not really like you don't put him in and be like, all right, Kenny, you're a number one hitter. You're going to be the big promo guy for the show. Like that's not really his role. That's not what he's comfortable doing. But at the same time, I felt like he did exactly what he needed to in that spot.
Yep. Yeah. And anything else you'd like to add, Dory?
Yeah, no, I'm just happy to see Kenny. I'm happy to see him happy. Yep. I loved him kicking off the show. Yeah, we've pretty much hit it at this point.
Yeah, so I mean, you talked about as Kenny was leaving, the Ops came out for their match.
That's right.
Against Three Drivers.
I do want to mention. I do want to talk about that for a second. I looked it up. We were talking about. Has Kenny ever fought Samoa Joe? Yes, once in 2007, so almost 20 years ago, in a Winnipeg nightclub. Apparently, I don't even know where to start with that, but obviously Joe went over because Kenny wasn't nearly the kind of he wasn't the Kenny he is now, right? That didn't really happen until 2016, 2017, maybe. And I would love to see it. Obviously, they're teasing Shibata versus Kenny, which I would also love to see, but I really want that Kenny versus Joe match. I'm not going to lie. Joe can still go. Obviously, he's not the same Samoa Joe used to be, but damn, I mean, he knows how to work around that. He was an incredible champion, and he got great matches out of everyone. He's a magnificent promo. He's got that, excuse me, that aura about him, and as the kids say, and it would it would do the world of good for AEW to have that kind of marquee match. I don't know where you do it. Maybe you do it Double or Nothing. Maybe you never do it because I'm fantasy booking the fuck out of AEW right now. But I just saw those two looking across each other. I'm like, have they ever? No, they've never. What the fuck? Like, let's do this. What are we doing? Like, I don't know how much longer either of these guys have. Probably a few years, hopefully, but you never know. Obviously, in wrestling with diverticulitis, God, fuck that disease, and fuck that name. This name's so hard to say. And obviously, Joe, he's had his share of injuries too. So I hope AEW does that, pulls the trigger on that at some point. But of course, I am very much down for Shibata versus Kenny. I don't know. I don't think it'll happen, but I think they're teasing it for down the line. I would love it to happen in NJPW actually, because I think that's where it would get the most amount of respect. But NJPW doesn't like Shibata because of reasons. So it probably won't ever happen. But anyway, yeah, that's my little side tangent on that.
I mean, I think there's a couple things you could maybe pull out of that stare down at the top of the ramp. Is that setting up something for does Shibata beat Ricochet? We kind of agree that we thought Ricochet was the shoe-in for that match, but that stare down, does that change anything in your mind about could that potentially be where they're going with that? Is Shibata's in that 4-way match?
Yeah,
I mean, I personally don't think it'll change anything, but at the same time, like it's always good that they have all of these potential matchups in their bag that they could go to at any point. And that's something that really sets the company apart, is just their ability to they could do the first Samoa Joe Kenny Omega match in almost 20 years, in the first real match, let's be honest, between those two. And they could just whip that out whenever they want to, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So are they just teasing? Is there something there? Who knows? But at the same time, it's little things like that that really help, build stories, even if they're not a story company, quote unquote.
Right. But yeah, I mean, so then we're going into this trios match, which is the Ops versus Vinny Pacifico and two other guys that I don't remember their names. I tried to write down their names, but they went away too fast. I just recognized Vinny Pacifico from some match I've seen somewhere. But it was a fun.
He's very big on Twitter, so
yeah. It was a fun, squashish match of the Ops, as we've seen a few times here and there. It seems like they're telling the story of Hook learning under Shibata. He did the trip spot that Shibata did the week before. So yeah, it just seems like this mentorship under both the history wrestlers of Shibata and Joe, teaching Hook along the way, which I think he needs that right now, as in terms of a character. Other than that, yeah, standard squash in my opinion. Anything else anyone wants to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're building the Ops towards dethroning Death Riders. Or are they're the trios, right? Yeah, I believe so. Yes. It's so hard to remember. Even
they're
though they
dead
did
right now, but
they're all dead right now, so that's yeah. But I think that's why I think they're building it. I think we're slowly rebuilding that trios division. I think the Ops are going to fight a couple other trios and win the rights to get that. I think that's going to be the start of the end for the Death Riders. Is when they lose those trios titles, and then Yuta turns, and then Mox loses the title, and everybody can shut the fuck up. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. A nothing match. I honestly, I didn't fully look at it. Some of the spots that I saw looked good. Everything looked fine. I don't know. It was just a squash match. Not much to talk about.
Yeah, so then afterwards we had a quick backstage segment with Ricochet basically saying, talking up their match for Saturday of Ricochet arrogantly saying, Shibata, you can not show up, and he'll be perfectly okay with that, which is very in character for Ricochet. And I think we'll see that arrogance maybe get wiped off his face, but I think we all agree that, at least as in terms of a preview, I think we all kind of think Ricochet is coming out of that match the winner. Clean or not, that's always the question. But I think he's coming out the winner for that on Saturday. We got like a few announcements of matches right after this, which was then leading into next week. We're replaying Mox versus Cope in a street fight, which seems sudden given that we just had the match on Saturday at Revolution or Sunday at Revolution. And there was a few different things kind of back to back to back. Swerve approaches, or I should say, Cope approaches Swerve after Swerve kind of declares his intent for the world title shot at Dynasty that he won after facing Ricochet. Mox calls out, does a promo saying he underestimated Cope. Cope approaches Swerve saying, I'm going to fight for this championship. I may have it by the time you get your shot. We're all going to fight each other. A bunch of words thrown every which way between those people. What's the thoughts about going into this street fight next week, which probably is going to be full of shenanigans. I guess to tie in with a spot later on, Christian Cage says his contract wasn't official. He was just meant to just face Cope, but the referee called it a 3-way. So Christian's thrown into this mess. I think this street fight's going to be full of shenanigans next week. Any thoughts about that whole amalgamation of the world title scene that we've been in kind of a crazy stir about for like the last month or so? Although it's been a good stir, I think it's been a mixed bag of things.
Yeah. Look, I'm not nearly as upset as some people are. I feel like this is a make good from TK. He realizes now what some of us already knew, me, that it should have been a street fight to begin with. I think it's because they didn't want to compete with Tony and Mariah any more than they already were for the main event, and I don't know, like it was tough because you had a steel cage. And you had then you would have had a street fight, and you would have had a Hollywood ending, right? So it would have been tough to differentiate them. I think you could have done a last man standing or something like that. Like you could have still differentiated it, and it had to be a hardcore match. But they decided to just make it a plain old match, and it didn't hit for a lot of people. I still thought it was fine. I wouldn't go back and rewatch it, but for what it was, I enjoyed the shenanigans. I think the Christian stuff and the stuff afterwards kind of saved it from just being good or all right or whatever people want to say. I'm excited. This is what the match should have been to begin with for me. Cope is great at plunder matches. We've seen that. Mox is great at plunder matches. We all know that. He hasn't lost his step at that. Yes, there's going to be lots of shenanigans. I'm okay with that. I don't think shenanigans are inherently bad. Obviously, you can go overboard with it. You can overbook it. You can do the wrong kind of shenanigans. But I like what I see, at least at face value. Swerve being involved, and Ospreay being involved is all very exciting to me. We'll get Swerve at Dynasty, and we'll get Ospreay at All In, which probably means that Swerve is not beating Mox. So I'm sure some people are going to have a meltdown about. Look, I'm not happy about it either. At this point, I think Mox's reign just has to come to an end. We could get a rematch of Swerve versus Ospreay, with Ospreay winning this time on his home turf at Forbidden Door. But I do also think that'd be kind of lame to do a main event that had nothing to do with NJPW or CMLL. So I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider here. Overall, I'm positive about it. I know a lot of people aren't. I feel like it's a make good, but it could also just be TK saying "fuck you," like this is AEW, and you guys aren't in charge. I'm the billionaire here. So I don't know. It's very funny either way. I don't know if he's just like, all right, my bad. Let's ramp this up, or he's like, nah, fuck you. I don't care. Here's another one. So I don't know. Maybe it's a little both. Call him A, call him B. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of agree with. I wasn't, I didn't give my opinion on the review modcast from Sunday, but I kind of agree with your opinion of it was fine. It probably could have been or should have been something different. I think the street fight is kind of a make good for that. Um, I yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen in Dynasty with the world title, but Brent, do you have any? What do you think about this shuffleboard of frenemies that we have surrounding the world title?
I mean, this is what the world title picture should look like in any company. I mean, you should have all of your top guys wanting the belt, and that's exactly the path that they're going down now. And I think it kind of was being missed for a little bit there. That was kind of it wasn't the core focus of the company. The Continental Classic kind of diverted people's attention away from it and everything like that, which is fine. It was a great tournament, but at the same time, Mox was running roughshod and canceling Rampage and doing other things that didn't have anything to do with making the world title the most important thing in the company. And I think ever since Tony got back in the weeds, um, that's been more of the focus. And I
I
think
mean, you got to admit that Rampage spot was pretty awesome, though.
oh no, that was fantastic. Uh but sorry. But yeah, I think with Mox now, I think the Mox vote match next week is going to be awesome. I think it's going to make up for all the good talk that's been going on since Sunday night about that match. It was just the right. It was the wrong night for that match to be where it
Mm-hmm.
was on the show, and where it was just a victim of circumstance. You had to have a world title match on that show, and it's just under delivered compared to everything else. So I think with it being the main focus on an episode of Dynamite, I think that'll be a really good moment for it to shine. They didn't want to fall into that loop that like WWE does, and I don't want to talk about WWE or whatever, but like a lot of WWE pay-per-views, the main title, like Gunther's not on every pay-per-view defending the title, Cody's not on every pay-per-view defending the title, and I think Tony sees more of an importance that, hey, the world championship should be defended on the pay-per-view. And that's why that match was on there, even though really it probably shouldn't have been. Um, and if it was on the pay-per-view, it probably should have been a lot earlier in the card. But again, it's the world title; it should be the most important thing. So
Mm-hmm.
bringing that all together, having the focus be, Swerve wanting the belt, Osprey wanting the belt, Hangman wanting the belt, MJF wanting the belt, like all of these people have made references to wanting to be the champion again. MJF's promo tonight was all about like, I was the champion for 400 days or whatever. Like, I want to be the champion again. Like, all of this stuff is building to possibly the greatest Owen Hart tournament of all time. And if all these people are in it, and there's a lot of potential here to make that belt important, whether Mox is the champion or not.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's actually a great call out though, because tonight um, we had our first official entry or declaration for the Owen, which was Osprey, uh, and I think it seems like we have Jay White kind of calling out Osprey. After that, we have the interactions between Hangman and MJF, and MVP basically trying to call MJF into his wing, which I don't know what's going to go on with that. That seems like a very interesting story, So, if they do go the route of a powerhouse of a Owen Hart tournament coming up here soon for that world title shot, I mean, that just seems like a dream, a springtime C2 of just some of the top talent you have in the company, all competing over what should be, like you said, the main prize in the company. So we had, like I said, I think we had MJF a few times. We had Hangman in their little segment backstage, which seems like their feud's going to continue. Everyone assumes that they're going to have a match at Y'all in Texas. Um, But yeah, we had quite a few people calling into that top spot tonight, of people that are previous champions or people who I think a lot of fans assumed are future champions. In Jay White. I think everyone sees the potential, or everyone should know the potential of Jay White in that picture. But Dory, what are your thoughts about this mix up of possible Owen Hart entries? In terms of people in that Owen Hart tournament.
I was really surprised to hear about the Owen at all.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that to be brought up. It hasn't been advertised at all. It hasn't been mentioned once by the commentary. Nothing. So Ospreay's pretty much the first person to bring it up in the year of our Lord 2025. I did not expect it at all. If Ospreay's going to be in it, that's awesome. That's a great way for him to earn it and for him to prove that he's one of the best, and to have a match against Swerve or Mox, probably Mox. Let's be real. I just think by then the Death Riders will probably be back from their death, because they ride on death or something. I don't know. But yeah, we could have an all-timer. Jay White was teasing that he's going to be in the Owen, so I think that would be an excellent match between those two. You could have Speedball in the Owen, Takeshita, Beast Mordos, Hologram. You could do. You could have so many people. Kyle O'Reilly, Roddy. You could do so much. There's so much here you could play with. And you could play with the feuds and stuff. I think you could have a newly titleless Danny Garcia in here too, scrapping with a lot of the greats. I think that would be awesome. So yeah, there's so much opportunity for awesome matchups here.
Yeah, and you called out Hologram and Beast Mortos, and we had the match tonight between Hologram and Hobbs versus Dralistico and Brian Cage, and this was a collision match. And I don't say that negatively, but this was a match that you would typically see on Collision in the best way possible. It was fun. It kind of pushed some story along without being particularly story heavy. We had the involvement of the return of Harley Graham and Beast Mortos along the side, at the ringside of Dralistico and Brian Cage. This was just a fun lucha match with an absolutely amazing. Hologram does the best dive in AEW, in my opinion. And Brian Cage catching him mid dive, turning that into a suplex, was a thing of beauty.
Awesome.
It's just amazing. What other kind of call outs do we have for this match?
Yeah, Brent, that's all you.
I don't really have anything specific. I had a blast watching this. I have a blast watching all the Holograms match. He's so sick as a wrestler. And having Harley Graham out there was perfect. Like it was just so subtly done that it was just like, oh yeah, of course she's out there with him. Like, and it didn't distract from the match. It added to it with Beast Mortos interfering and her like drawing the Beast's attention away from that and running a little Beauty and the Beast kind of gimmick. And yeah, it's just a good blend of lucha and meaty dudes just doing lucha shit and meat dude stuff, and just like it was a fun match, and it was exactly what you needed on a show like this where the rest of the roster is beat to shit, and you just have these four guys that can go just do what they do best. There's maybe a little bit of awkwardness between Dralistico and Powerhouse Hobbs working together, but I don't know if they've ever been in the ring together. It's just it's little, it's kind of nitpicky stuff, but
Yeah.
could have been a little bit better. But at the end of the day, I liked how Hobbs, he beat him with a spine buster, but it was a hell of a spine buster.
Yes.
And it was kind of nice to see a match end on a move like that, where it's like, oh yeah, that was a big, powerful spine buster. Like, but that's not really considered a finishing move in today's wrestling landscape. But it worked pretty well in this instance. So
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, I think again, not trying to make like WWE connections, but I do feel like Hobbs is in a lot of ways similar to Gunther's position in WWE, where Hobbs has finishers. He finishes matches when he wins, but it's not like splashy move. It's power move, right? It's just slamming you into the ground so hard that you can't get up.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure. I think the one thing we keep coming back to in this episode is the styles make matches kind of thing, and this was
yeah.
peak example. Um, this was such a good example of that, of lucha meeting meat. And there's also a little bit of sports entertainment via Harley Graham. I actually thought she left after the entrance, but she was still there, hanging out, doing her thing, trying to tame the beast, so to speak, seduce the beast. Good for her. Beast Mordos. If you've seen any of his pictures, he posed without his mask on, with an emoji
Muy
covering his
guapo.
face. Good lord, that man is handsome.
Yeah.
And I have some reasons to believe Harley Graham is very attractive as well, but I can't confirm or deny. But no, I mean, just a fun match. I also noticed the Jurlistico Hobbs stuff. I noticed it too earlier in the match actually than when most people were talking about it, just because Jurlistico kept missing when he was supposed to go down for Hobbs' clothesline. It seemed like a timing issue. But yeah, I can't really think of a time those two have worked together. And overall, the match was so fluid, so good, that the couple of mistakes here and there didn't really bother me. Overall, it was a really fun match. Like you said, Justin, it was a fun collision match, and I really enjoyed that on Dynamite. So yeah, I just had a great time with it, and I will take one more, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think one thing that we can really, I think, see with this match in particular is that clash of styles. I think a little mix of story. And I would like to see Harley. I made the joke a long time ago of the Beast and the Harlot. I feel like there's a lot of cool things you could do with Harley and Beast Mortos, and I feel like the situation with LFI is really weird. I don't know what
It's
the
constantly weird.
yeah. So I mean, in with not just with Beast Mortos, but with AEW in general. Um, yeah, so I don't know if I think it would be fun to have a pairing of Harley and Beast Mortos. I ship them. Uh, um, yeah, moving on. Next, we had a Tony's promo segment, which led with a small promo package that was narrated by Ben Makowitz of Turner Classic Movies fame, which then led to Tony giving a top of the ramp promo with the likes of the line. I didn't write down the whole thing, but I think I caught the biggest one, which is I bleed like a pig, I lick like a giraffe, and I'll eat you like a lion. And then I just wrote more sexual innuendos.
Yeah.
Because it was not the first time she's done that style promo, but it's always fun when she does. And she's propping up. I noticed in that promo she called out a lot of the champions, both men and women, in AEW and ROH. And I think we're approaching a really, I mean, we've been on a hot streak in AEW across the board in terms of storylines and championship runs, with maybe a few speed bumps here and there, but especially in 2025, I think things have been on a really good pace for both men and women. Women maybe could use a little bit more time, but there's only so much time on TV. Not saying that's a great excuse, but with so many stars, as many stars as AEW has, it's hard to fit everyone all the time. Any other quotes that I missed or you'd like to talk about for the Tony promo before we talk about the next part that happened post the promo? Dory, anything else she said?
No, I did love her calling out all the champions. Especially Mox. I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck's Mox gonna do? Like, she's the deathmatch queen now. So, I thought that was awesome. I thought the whole promo was great. I don't really have much to add from what we said before. Tony is just an excellent promo, and she's an excellent wrestler. It's so great to see how far she's come. It all started with wrestling Azumi from Stardom. Ever since that match, she just picked up and picked up and picked up, especially in her feud with Mariah, but even with other people. She's just done the work. She's put out nothing but at least great matches, if not better. And I mean, she literally just had one of the best matches of all time. So, and probably one of the greatest women's matches of all time. So, yeah, this was another fantastic promo. I don't have much more to say.
Brent, any additions for Tony before we talk about kind of the aftermath of that promo?
I just want to talk about the Megasis.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh man, I'm very excited for this because a lot of the thoughts coming out of the pay-per-view is like, obviously Tony Storm just finished, arguably the biggest women's feud in AEW history and maybe pro wrestling history. And it's like, well, where is this going to go? Who's going to be the next person that challenges her? And it was all like, oh, she just, wrapped it up. She did her signature pose, and it was like, okay, well, maybe they're going to get to her feud next week. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Megan Bain blindsides her and stands over her, and it's just like, hell yeah, because I'm a big Megan Bain fan. Saw her a bunch in GCW, and got a lot of talent, and I'm very happy that whatever issues work themselves out, that she's back in AEW, and I think that's the uh perfect like first big title feud for Megan Bain. She doesn't really fit into the Mercedes Moné picture. This gets her a big important match. Whether it's going to be in an upcoming Dynamite, whether it's going to be at Dynasty, whatever. It puts Megan Bain in a spot. But then later on, without getting too much into it, like later on in the show, she still has unfinished business elsewhere, and that's it's kind of the fun thing is there's multiple balls being put in the air, and that they're all like you're not necessarily just dropping the whole Statlander feud right away, but like yeah, I want a title shot too. So it's setting up everybody and it's raising the competition for everybody. So I'm excited for all this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was not super familiar with Megan other than hearing her name around um, before I watched. I think one or two GCW matches, and I was like, okay, I think she looks good. Not that I want to compare talent for what they were, but I think there was an obvious comparison between her and Camille. Even for like the short time Camille seemed to be in AEW or whatever that situation is, in terms of big women, I think the Megan Bain and Statlander match we have had were great. I think those two work well together, and leading into the next topic that we can talk about somewhat is that Willow versus Penelope match we had tonight, which was for me standard. It was a good match, solid match between Willow and Penelope. And then we did have the aftermath of that match as well. But any call outs that I missed some of the match because my dog was outside and I needed to get him inside. But
yeah, I thought Willow ending the match with a pounce was cool. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, that was
She
sick.
never beats anybody with a pounce, so that was awesome.
Mhm.
Penelope always just looks good, and I'm kind of stealing this from other people, but it's super impressive how good she looks in the ring, given how much time she spent out of the ring.
True.
Usually there's the ring rust. I mean, we've seen it so many times. She just looks like she hasn't lost a damn step. She's even incorporated some new moves into her arsenal, and to her repertoire, if you will, and she just looks so good. Willow has always been great. And so this was just a solid match. I not much more than that. Not a match I'd go back to, but a match I enjoyed watching. And I think that the stuff that they're setting up was really interesting as well. There was some stuff post match too with Megasis. I do want to say that I have seen Megan Bain wrestle in person. I saw her wrestle at the Philadelphia show when Stardom came at WrestleMania weekend. And I really enjoyed her match with Micah. I'm not as huge on Micah as some people are, but she had a fantastic match with Micah. It was really great. Just two strong women beating the shit out of each other. It was awesome. So yeah, I'm really excited for what Megan Bain is up to. It doesn't surprise me. Tony had an interview where she was like, "Yeah, I want to fight Megan Bain. I want to fight Julia Hart." And I think that's all she named in that particular interview. Obviously, in the promo, she also mentioned Mercedes and Athena. I don't think those are happening for a very long time. But but yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. I think Megan coming out here. Obviously, the first attack was Penelope reattacking Willow, Statlander saving Willow from the chair attack from Penelope in the Megasis, coming out to knock them both down and stand tall afterwards. She does seem to be calling her shot as a powerhouse of the women's division, which is great to see, I think, on TV. And I'm a huge Chris Statlander fan. I think consistently she gives every woman their best match on TV.
I just saw a match with her and Shanna from 2020. I don't know who the fuck remembers Shanna, but she was from Portugal, I think, and she had the Dragon Ball Z gimmick. But she kept dressing up like Goku. But she and Chris had a really solid match for early like AEW, early women's division AEW. Stat's always been good. Even since the beginning, she's always been good. She's always been someone TK's been pushing. Even after she broke, or not broke, but like tore like both of her legs, she's still incredible, which is really impressive because that's absolutely a way to just end a career or end your style. And yeah, she does do less flips than she used to. That's pretty apparent. But I don't really think it slowed her down at all. I mean, look at her matches with Mercedes, her matches with Willow. She's just still an incredible pro wrestler in the ring. So yeah, she's always been great. She's always been that one.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think moving on to the next segment that happened, which was, a lot of people don't like Max Caster, but you cannot tell me that this best wrestler alive open challenge gimmick isn't his best work in AEW, period. And some of the best work, in terms of just getting himself over in the most selfless way I think you can talk about, which all of these open challenges that he just gets destroyed immediately. I personally enjoy these. Obviously, this match tonight was, if you can call it a match, Takeshita hit him once with the wind-up elbow, and then the Raging Fire after he lifted Max Caster up out of the pin and into the match real quick. But yeah, Max Caster for me, he the person is, I can differentiate a little bit from the gimmick. I think this gimmick is great.
Yeah, I do too. I don't like Max. I don't think I'll ever like him. He's an edgelord. He's worse than the other Max, who's an edgelord, by quite a few. Way more chronically online. Just a distasteful individual. But I'm not going to deny that this gimmick is working for me. It's really good. Him getting his ass kicked is great. I hope it never ends. I hope just everybody on AEW beats him until his contract runs out. I'm not calling for him to be fired before anybody gets on me about that. I don't think anybody would be, but just in case, I'm not arguing. I'm not celebrating whatever, but I just think everybody on the roster, and even that includes Big Boom, AJ, and the Rizzler, and Big Justice. Just I don't care at this point. Even them. I don't like them, but even them, just walk up, beat them. I think they could be the last ones. And that can write off Max for good. And I'll never recover, and we'll never have to see him again. But I will enjoy it. So yeah, it's been great. This also shows that Tony still loves Takeshita, and just because he's lost the belt does not mean that Tony has forgotten about him, which is sometimes a thing that can happen, not in just AEW, but in plenty of promotions.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing really to talk about here, but that it was fun. I enjoyed it. I think actually it was one of Max's longer matches because he did a promo after the bell rung.
That's true.
Yeah, so I think that was pretty funny. But yeah, it was good. It was good stuff.
And then we did have the quick Jericho promo, which is probably gonna. My assumption is it's gonna lead to the Super Card of Honor match. With Bandito putting Bandito over once again, and then correct me if I'm wrong. When TK acquired Ring of Honor, Bandito was the men's world champion at that point.
Yes, I believe that's correct.
So it's
no,
almost
Gresham was.
I think he had either he was or he just lost it. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he'd lost it at the show before it closed.
Okay. I remembered it was like an awkward was it an awkward situation that his visa wasn't approved, so he couldn't get back into the country
There was
to
something
defend
like
it, and
that,
they like took it from him. Whatever the situation was, it seems
that
like
sounds right.
it's almost like it's a reset or an ROH back to like where things were, at least on the men's side for champions, which is good. I love Bandito. On one hand, I don't think Jericho should have that title at this point. On the other hand, if Jericho doesn't have that title, he's probably going to be on the AEW TV more. So it's a double-edged sword if he drops it. And then
I'm begging from a Speedball Mike Bailey to just outside of Jericho's peripheral at all times before Jericho notices how hot and Mike Bailey is with the crowd. Just it's kind of like a raptor, you know. You just got to stay very still and just back away very slowly, Speedball, and just don't get locked into the vortex, okay, buddy? Just right out of his cone of vision, okay, like a video game.
Stay in the vortex of the Don Callis family. It's a much better vortex.
No, that's a much better vortex. I am fine with that vortex because it leads to so many good matches for Speedball and him being the obvious face, which is great. So yeah. We are going to talk about the MJF segment, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So going. Yeah, I guess I skipped going back to that. So the MJF did have a promo segment. I wanted to call out that officially MJF now has 13 years of bad luck, because we saw after Revolution he went back to his locker room, punched a mirror after I didn't quite catch exactly what he said watching it the first time on TV, but he broke a mirror, ran, I think it was Lexi Nair, back out of the locker room, and then we came out to the ring and we have a pretty good promo in back and forth with MVP. What did you want to talk about this, or what really struck you, Dory?
Yeah, I'm a big Max mark. Well, this Max in particular. I will say his tan line's atrocious. It's giving me Ariana Grande vibes, and Max, we do not want to go down that road. But besides the tan line, which is a stupid topic anyway, but impossible to not notice. I thought this was the most intriguing thing on Dynamite. If you had given me 1 million people who'd come out, the whole entire AEW roster, I would never have guessed MVP. Matt seems to have history with everybody. That dude networked when he was younger. So good for him. It was very interesting. He started talking about Hangman and their match and how he was the champion, and the Hangman got lucky just like he got lucky in 2019 or whatever, in that battle royale or whatever. So it was very interesting, and then MVP comes out and I'm like, where is this going? And it turns out they have some history with each other. They used to talk a lot when Max was younger, about 10 years ago or something, and they kind of like hug and talk about like Max's like match and like him not being a champ anymore. And MVP gives him a card. And at first Max declines. He's like, I don't need it. I was a champion, the longest reigning champion. And MVP's like, you need to focus on that word, was. And he pushes the card back, which he's never done for anybody else. Someone in the chat mentioned this.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think he's ever offered it twice I don't even think he's offered it to someone arguably as integral to AEW as Max. So this is really big for them. Now, do I think Max is going to join Hurt Syndicate? No, I don't. I just can't see that happening. I think it'd be very funny if he did, but I can't see it happening. I can't see Bobby and Shelton getting along with him. I don't think that's going to happen, but I don't think that's the point. I don't think the point is that Max is going to join. I think the point is that he's considering it. And almost every time, there's probably some exceptions. I think Mercedes is one of them. But almost every time someone has been given a card, whether it was Max Caster or it was Leo Rush and Andretti, or it was Top Flight, or it was Ricochet, most notably, they have undergone a huge character transformation. And so I'm very curious what's going to happen with Max, because that's probably going to happen. I mean, he posted MyChem on his Instagram. I've never seen Max post MyChem anything anywhere. It was literally the song "I'm Not Okay, I Promise." So I don't know. Dude is having a generational crash out, and I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, I definitely agree that I'm not sure exactly what's going to go on with that. I think that there's a bunch of directions they could go. You know, does Max do a test run with the Hurt Syndicate, but he can't quite keep up with Bobby Lashley working out? Or, you know, there's a...
that would be hilarious.
Like, I think that there's some really fun things you could play around with Max's ego and, like, not living up to the Hurt Syndicate's motto, their lifestyle, right? Because, like, that's what MVP's, you know, short post Revolution segment was about, was, you know, the people in the Hurt Syndicate are always working. They're never not working out. They're looking for the next fight. I think that there probably is some meat on the bone if they choose to bite into go that direction. Brent, any thoughts about MJF MVP joining the HS?
No, I think you're exactly on the right path. I think MJF kind of needs this side quest kind of story, and I think this is a really fun way of going about it. It has almost kind of shades of the Adam Cole friendship, because like, hey, it'll be MJF and another friendship, but obviously I don't think it's going to be nearly the levels of goofiness as that one was. I think it's going to be a lot more serious, but at the same time, I could see there being a little bit of comedy, like you were saying, where like, yeah, MJF, you know, won't be able to keep up with Lashley, but they did kind of do that with Adam Cole too, where Adam Cole was like deceptively strong and doing like extra weight on the bench press and stuff like that, and they could go down that path. They could go more serious, but I think this is a fun little thing with MJF to see, like, hey, where's this gonna go? What is this gonna build to? I think it's interesting, and that's I mean, for a guy who's not really going to be wrestling every week on TV, I think something like this, you know, with another tremendous talker like MVP, I think there's a lot of potential for some fun stuff out of this.
Man, y'all are gonna hate me for what I'm about to say, Brent especially, but this is giving me like Punk Heyman vibes, where like you have one really good talker and you have another really good talker, and like, no, they don't necessarily need each other, but they're so entertaining and interesting together that like that it works. And they're both heels in both situations, so I think it really works. I don't know if that's the path they go, but I do know that Max, you know, at least at one point, we don't know now, really respected, you know, the man who shall not be named on this podcast. Yeah, who I've already named, of course. But yeah,
the one you already named.
Yeah. I was trying not to name again. But anyway, I do think that maybe they're going for that kind of thing, but I don't know. It does remind me of that dynamic though, which I think is very interesting. I do think Max is going to undergo some kind of character transformation, and it's going to lead to him having a win over Hangman. Maybe at Dynasty, maybe at Double or Nothing. I don't know. And then they will probably somehow drag this out to All In, where they have a Texas Death Match. I don't know how you. Well, I mean, I guess you drag it out that way by having side stories along the way that break it up. and then eventually you go back to it, and then eventually, some more side stories, and then go back to it again until y'all in.
Yeah, I think on the Hurt Syndicate side, if I was to play Booker, and potentially see like what paths I could see besides the MJF can't keep up with Lashley side, I also see elements of, obviously MVP is about the partying as well as the business. We've seen MJF loves partying as well. What if there's some kind of play of MJF kind of joins the Hurt Syndicate for a little bit, but that causes friction between Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin and MVP, where MVP's partying with MJF, while while Lashley and Shelton are doing business. I could see something along those lines as well.
Yeah. We just don't know. I honestly, I would never imagine this angle, and I couldn't tell you where it's going. So I'm just excited.
Yeah.
My intrigue glands, as Simon Miller would say, have been fully activated. I'm very curious where this is going to go, and I'm excited. I really don't know what to expect here, but there's lots of cool stuff they could do. So hopefully they just pick one of them and just go with it.
One small detail I wanted to ask you two if you agree with this. When Hangman ran into MJF backstage, obviously after this segment, Hangman. So we know Hangman cut his hair noticeably at Revolution. Definitely trimmed it back. I'm pretty sure his beard and mustache were still what they have been. Tonight on the show, it looked like, to me, Hangman had shaved down his beard and mustache. And at least that looked like it to me, to symbolize that slow regression to old face, babyface Hangman. Did you notice that as well, or do you agree that it looked like, more shaving has gone on?
I just love that we're at a point where we're talking about Hangman's hairstyles. That's the level of character we're going. I don't know. I don't know if I have much to add. Brent, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I didn't really, I guess, pay that close of attention to that, but that is, it is an interesting thought if that's really what's going on.
I think Hangman's always had this kind of edge with him. Not Adam Copeland. Is that he, watching for the first time a lot of 2020 AEW on Max, because I didn't start until Sting, which is the end of the year of 2020. You notice how he's always had this kind of rage underneath. He's always had this anger. I'm sure this is common knowledge for a lot of AEW fans who've been there since the beginning. But for me, it was a bit of a surprise. I thought he was just kind of a classic, like, all-out babyface, but he's always been at least a little bit of a tweener. But the fans just don't care. They just love him. Sure. He's kind of like that badass babyface archetype that, if you book really well, I mean, just gets over tremendously, and has obviously worked. So I don't know. I don't know what we're doing with Hangman's hairstyle. That man can do whatever he wants. Just a work of art is that man. But yeah, I didn't notice that, but I did notice them having a very tense stare off for about 5 seconds before Max walked away. There's no way this is done. I think they run this back at Double or Nothing, maybe Dynasty if we're lucky. I think they're going to do a trilogy, so I just don't know how you skip a couple of, obviously Forbidden Door is an easy skip, because NJPW is an indie promotion, an indie fed to Max, so that's easy to skip. But and obviously it wouldn't have to include Hangman. But I don't know how you skip Dynasty, and at least not right now. I guess you could involve the Hurt Syndicate somehow. But yeah, I don't know. That's a cool detail. We'll see if anything comes of it.
Well, if anyone watching this also paid attention to Hangman's facial and or head hair, and that I am accurate and that it changed now that he's becoming the stronger babyface, just let me know in the comments. And I think the last bit that we haven't talked about yet, I think, is a huge development that everyone's looking forward to for what everyone assumes will be Y'all In, which is Mercedes talking backstage with Billy Starks, with the undertones of everyone expects the eventual Athena match down the line. Yeah, Billy comes in and effectively challenges Monet to a match, I think next week.
Yes.
And that's going to be a great match, I think. And, I'm looking forward to the eventual Athena match as well. Whether I think everyone's looking forward to those matches, but yeah, Brent, what's your thoughts about the situation with Monet and who her next opponent and future prospective opponents might be?
That's a really good question. Obviously, the whole thing, building to Athena at all, and I'm not really sure what path they're going to get or go down to get from here to there. That's an interesting question. Obviously, the belt collector dynamic is there, so there is a reason for Mercedes Moné to want that match, just because could be the ROH Women's Champion as well. So there's something there for her in it, and obviously Athena, uh, uh, maybe is just at that point done with ROH and fully sees like, hey, I've done everything I can here. Now it's time for me to go to AEW. From a character perspective, maybe that's the intention. I'm not really 100% sure how they're going to decide that, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't really have a great plan for Mercedes Moné. I'm just kind of just feeling this one out for now, but I'm very excited for her and Big Billy Starks to get a good match here next week.
Yeah. My enthusiasm for this is at an all-time high. I thought we were getting this match at Dynasty, but I guess I can't have everything. I am so excited for Billy versus Mercedes. That is gonna, if they give that time, which it's TK, flip a coin. But if they give it time, even 15 minutes, that could be easily match of the night. I'm very excited for it. Billy's an incredible talent. Should have won in December, but I'm past that, and I'm not bitter at all. At all, actually. And I definitely wasn't there in person yelling and screaming. Anyway, but yeah, no, in seriousness, Billy's a phenomenal talent. Mercedes and her are gonna tear down the house. I think what's gonna happen is eventually this is gonna reach Athena. Maybe Mercedes gets a CEO corporation thing going. I don't know where the Renegades have been. I know one of them was injured, but I thought that they were better, but I don't know. Maybe we're really taking our time on this. I don't know.
I think we need to just move past the thought of the Renegades being involved in this, honestly.
Yeah, maybe it's past its
I don't really see what they
at this
add
point.
to it in the grand scheme of things.
I know. They just love her, and get in line. You know what I mean? Get in line. You're
Right,
not special.
exactly.
So maybe we're not doing any CEO corporation. Mercedes has hinted at it a couple times, but nothing has ever happened except that one time we won't talk about. And that didn't go well. So I think TK is probably just being really cautious. I think down the line we are getting Athena versus Mercedes at Y'all In, and that's where Mercedes loses it. Athena is probably losing at Supercard of Honor to Billy, if I had to guess, in some kind of loser leaves town match. Because
you don't even know if we're getting a Supercard of Honor.
I know. I figure we are, but it's just not in April, or it's not in early April. I don't know. It's baffling to me. It's baffling. But yeah, I know Tony has wanted to move Supercard away from WrestleMania weekend for a while, which to me, I don't know. I get it, but also I don't like it because it's such a good. It becomes like a mecca for wrestling, and I don't know. I went to Philly last year. I just saw Stardom and ROH, and I still missed a bunch of shows, and I was still very happy. So I don't know. But whatever. I don't know when Supercard is. They're starting to plant the seeds for it with Bandito versus Jericho, the rematch. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, Billy versus Mercedes will be awesome. And Athena versus Mercedes, whenever it happens, could be Tony versus Mariah levels if they do that build right. And if they deliver, which I presume they will. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. I'm always excited to see Billy on an AEW TV because it finally means Athena will be on AEW TV, which fans have been clamoring for years. So yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I think unless there's anything else anyone thinks we missed talking about, I think that covers this episode of Dynamite. And was there anything that we missed that you would like to bring up?
The only thing that I'm seeing is the Christian Cage backstage
Yes.
thing and the
Oh.
teasing of Nick Wayne standing up and becoming a man, standing
That
up
was
to his
so
father.
good. That was surprisingly
And,
really good.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was really good. And you know, you wonder, like, you know, where is this a pivot because of Kill Switch, or maybe like Kill Switch is going to be involved in all of this, and maybe go back to Luchasaurus. I could see like a Luchasaurus Nick Wayne tag team coming out of this. I think there's a lot of potential for this, and as fun as the patriarchy has been, I think it's time for Nick Wayne to grow some wings and fly off on his own for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this segment really surprised me. This was a great show out for Nick on the mic when he really hasn't had a lot of time to do that. He's good in the ring, of course. And especially in the indies. He just hasn't been used a ton, but that's okay. I mean, he's got plenty of time. And I think they are now starting to maybe push him a little bit. But I love that Luchasaurus Nick Wayne tag team. A great idea to put Luchasaurus with a smaller, more athletic, skinny guy who's really young. I don't think that's ever been done before, not to my knowledge. Definitely nobody who's in
Novel
AEW
concept.
right now, who's related to a famous actor and from California. And now that you mention it, but anyway, yeah, I really hope Jack Perry comes back at some point. I miss him like heck. But anyway, and the Bucks. But yeah, this was a great segment, and I'm glad you mentioned it. But yeah, besides that, I think we've covered everything.
Yeah. I think, you know, talking about Nick Wayne just for a second, I think him and Billy are in very interesting and very different,
Yes.
but also they're in very different positions, but in like strengths in very different ways. Because like I feel like Billy has had better exposure, better matches than Nick Wayne has because she's been in ROH under the wing of Athena. Whereas Nick Wayne has been on TV more like TV presence, been in matches, but never in like strong position in TV. Often the lackeys of Christian, because you know heel group, you know they're gonna either lose or win by interference, etc. And I do think it would be really nice to have Nick break out of that and go back to kind of what we saw initially when he showed up, you know, teaming a little bit with Darby. You know, we kind of got those glimpses, but he was not that he was green in the ring, but he was green for television.
Right.
And I do think, you know, a nice show out moment for him would be pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, makes you wonder why Christian didn't take up Okada, you know, into the patriarchy. I mean, what TV experience did Okada really have? You know, this is sarcasm. Please understand this is sarcasm. But that's more for our
It's a good
audience
thing Okada
understanding.
didn't go to Chase U.
Yeah, man. If the infinite universe theory is right, then he's somewhere out there wearing a Chase U shirt, and I kind of want to just morbidly, I
Now
want to
Chase
see
U is out
that.
of business though, so you
That's
know
true.
Yeah,
wouldn't be getting an education anywhere.
that's true. But yeah, I will say overall, really great show. Fantastic segments, strong matches. There wasn't a match in here that I'd personally give less than 4 stars. And yeah, I don't really think there was anything that like made me go like, well, except maybe the rematch. But even then, I'm like, okay, I think they can pull it off though. So yeah, really great Dynamite, and I'm excited to see Collision. Collision's looking good too.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we'll cover that, but the card's looking strong there as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Any final thoughts, Brent?
I'm all good.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening. For anyone out there who will be listening to this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. And we will see you on the next episode of the Modcast. Have a good night.
Bye,
Thanks.
everybody. Thanks for listening.
Bye.